I'm going to tie for you today what I call a JuvieDad and what is a Juvenile Crawdad. In the nearby reservoir that I fish, you'll see these first thing in the morning before the sun has come out and it's just twilight. And the bass are all hunting in the rocks looking for these baby crawdads to feed on. I've taken my thread. I've got 6/0 uni and olive. And this, I'm tying in some boar's hair for the antenna. I like to look for the stuff that splits. It naturally splits at the end of it. Just a small little bundle, about 6 to 7 hairs. And I'll wrap it down and bring the bead back up. The bead I'm using for a little bit of weight, but also to split my peacock, to keep what it turn out to be look like the claws. And I use that bead to keep them split. These are just mono eyes made out of 30-pound mono. I've dipped them a couple of times in UV nail polish, as well as in black, and then coated it again with clear UV coating. The eyes aren't necessary, but they look pretty cool. I've crimped them a bit to get that flat section so that they'll lay down properly. And then I bring them in at an angle and do it on both sides. I like them to go out to about the same length as the antennae. I take a bit of CA just to nail it down. I'm going to bother to put them in. I want them to stick around. And when you're fishing in the rocks, it has a tendency to be really hard on the fly. Now I'm fishing usually first thing in the morning a still water line, because those bass are right on the rocks. You'll see their backs as they bump around in the rocks looking for these crawdads. I'm going to add a couple of bundles of pheasant tail fibers that have been dyed orange. I like the orange. If I can, when I find some blue, I'm going to add some blue. If you ever look at a real crawdad, it's got all kinds of colors. But this just gives it more texture and looks much buggier. This is just a bundle from one side of the pheasant tail feather. And then I'll just take the other side and it'll be on the other side. Now I'm going to take 2 pieces of pine squirrel, one in rust and one in olive, and make a brush out of it. And that'll be the majority of my body. I've got a dubbing loop. And the length of the piece of pine squirrel I'm using is about 1 inch. Each one's about 1 inch. If I could find, sometimes I can find pine squirrel that's got, rust-colored tips, but very hard to find. So I end up making my own. This is my way of doing that. And just twist it. Get some good twist on it. You got to stay with the 7/0 because it'll break that loop if you don't. Excuse me, the 6/0 thread. I'll brush it out a bit. What I'm using here is a touch of hand sanitizer without any scent on it. And it's perfect because it wets the pine squirrel and lets me wrap it really well, but then it dries very quickly, it evaporates very quickly. So we just wrap it and then tie it down and out. And whip finish. Now, conceivably, you could just stop here, but that's not quite good enough for me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a shank to it to let the fly articulate a little bit more. What I do is when I fish it, I drop it into that about 18 to 24 inches of water and then twitch it along the rocks. And the articulation enhances, just gives a little bit more movement. And burn off the excess just to clear that eye. Now the shank's just made out of jig wire. And this is, I think it's like 69-pound jig wire. And then I use a crafting tool to create the loops. So I just need something that lets it move a little bit. So this thing is what, maybe 3/8 of an inch long after I've done all the bends. And it gives me quite a bit of movement, especially in the body section of it, which then also adds movement to the pine squirrel, the quote-unquote claws. And drop a little bit of CA on this. Now I'm not using your normal super glue. This is the stuff that I get from hobby shops. It's a much better glue. It feels better and it dries better and it's stronger. And once again, I've got 2 pieces of pine squirrel, rust, and olive. And I'm going to make another brush. Spin it up, brush it out. And just wrap it with concentric wraps. Once again, use a little bit of the hand sanitizer. It's like 75% alcohol. And then tie off my brush. Now take and trim a bit of the pine squirrel, just to give a better opening into the hook point. Haven't had problems with it fouling it, but just not taking a chance. And that's my juvenile crawdad.